Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dev Notes with Laveau and PK.
I can't take you
That's
seriously.
that's a working title. That's a working title. We'll work on that. But for now, let's just call this Dev Notes with Laveau and PK, or maybe just Laveau because we don't know if PK will ever do this again.
Yeah.
But But in the meantime, let's introduce my wonderful co-host. Co-host, please introduce yourself.
I have to introduce myself? I thought this was your job.
Yes, you have to introduce yourself. Listen, I believe in.
In
Would you like? Okay. You know what? I'll introduce you. Right?
Okay.
Let's do this.
How are you gonna introduce me?
My co-host here. Tonight with me is my co-host, the wonderful, amazing, beautiful, handsome PK. All of you may know them as the amazing voice actor behind the channel of PennCIl Kid, the creator of Notarum Records, and voice of several other roles in many collaborative audios. You may recognize them from a series they did with Extroverted Ed, part of the collab with, I believe, part of the Thanksgiving collab with Cardlin. I almost forgot, even though I was in
You
this
were also
one.
in that one.
And several other times they would have guest voice for me on this channel. So everyone, give them a round of applause.
It's only been twice. Oh shit. Sorry, I definitely peaked my audio just now. Do I say hi? Do I get to greet the audience now?
Yes, you get to greet the audience. You had the chance to greet the audience beforehand. You just wanted me to do the extra introduction.
I just think if you're hosting me, why should I introduce myself? Well, what do I know?
Fair enough. But you may greet the audience now.
Okay, hello, audience. I think this is your fault. I'm so serious when I record things like this by myself. I blame you entirely right now.
Except this is the energy in the studio, and we'll just have to deal with that energy.
We're 5 minutes into my recording, and we have not started talking about a single audio.
Listen, we'll get there, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Now, for those of you who are joining us tonight on this live show, it is not a live show for anyone who is watching this. Don't worry, I'm just kidding. But for anyone watching, tonight's show is about let me say this more carefully, right? I don't need to be careful, but I'm just going to say it, right? Tonight's show is following the end of year in which we have experienced over. What's the statistics? Wait, let me hold that. Let me look it up. How many videos have I done this year?
I think 67.
Okay, yeah.
Or is it 68?
But that's the overall amount. That's the overall amount, though.
Or are we talking about NeXus videos? I think it's 48, 49.
It should be 49 audios thus far up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also think that's not counting in the mini-sode, so that might just be 50.
Ooh, okay.
Oh wait, that's not counting in the mini-sode as well as Conley's little video, which I had so much fun with.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting distracted. I'm getting distracted, right? Okay. The purpose of tonight's audio is that after having done so many videos for everyone and basically producing so much on this channel, I decided the best way to wrap this up was to have a small little discussion and a little behind the scenes talk about everything that would have gone on with NeXus. However, because we don't want to clog you all up with your time by doing an hour-long ramble about every single NeXus audio.
It's an hour and we're not even talking about them all.
Because we don't want to take up all your time. We don't want to do 24 hours worth of rambling. I don't even think YouTube would let that happen.
It might.
It might. Well, who am I kidding? It might. But because we don't want to clog up all your time, we only selected like about 12 to 14
13.
audios.
It's 13.
13 audios. Wow. We've selected 13 audios to discuss back and forth between myself and PK as we go over a few things about them. We made this list ahead of time so that we would have something proper to talk about. And it also featured a number of landmark audios and fun audios, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, PK, do you have anything extra to say before we begin this ramble?
That this is gonna probably be like an hour long.
Folks, let's see what happens. It might be. It might not be.
We'll just
have to
love
see.
the idea that like right after that there's just like a pause and like a editing note. It's just like, yes, it was indeed an hour. Oh my god. Anyways,
Okay.
are we going,
well, with that said,
yes.
Huh? You were saying?
No. Go ahead. This is your show.
Okay. With that said, folks, let's get into it. This is Dev Notes with Lavaux and PK, and we are audio. So, wonderful co-host. What is the first audio on the lineup?
Are we going in order of the
Yeah,
list
in order.
ahead? Okay. Sure hope I keep recording when I minimize this. Oh, I had shit. I really hope I didn't peak my audio. I had Uriah's first video.
Well,
as the first one
we're doing
list.
Uriah's first video. So, yes, you may
should I read the official title? Okay, the official title, according to my notes, is "Barging into a Shady Vampire Shop."
Honestly, not a very bad one. Not a very bad title drop for my first audio. I honestly don't know why I think this is a discussion point. It's really not. I just simply typed in words into the prompt and was like, you know what? I think this works. That works, you know? That's the name of the video, I guess. First one we're going with.
I feel like I could talk more about the like behind the scenes, or at least I think I have more to say about this from like a behind the scenes standpoint.
Okay, well, the floor is yours.
Wow, thank you. So kind, so generous. Anyways, I just think this audio is like, it's really interesting because I remember you first talking about NeXus conceptually, because I think it was a few weeks or maybe a few months after we met. And I remember, I think, was this in my notes? Yeah, it's in my notes. I remember you sending this to me as like a Google Drive, like at first, to like hear it out and be like, I don't know, like, is it okay? Is it like off? I think one of the first times you sent it, the like heartbeat sound effects are really, really loud. And I was like, you got to bring that way down. And I'm sure if you like replay the audio now, you would just be like cringing over the audio quality. But I think it's fine because you have to have room to grow. Otherwise, you'd be stale, and no one wants that.
Yeah.
What else? I think the two funny notes that I put here. Number one, I hadn't seen Scott Pilgrim yet because I think we ended up watching that December of last year. Now that I think about it, and I watched it and I'm just like, wow, you're a nerd. Yeah, I see why NeXus looks the way that it does. Of course it does. So that's the first thing. But I think it's even more interesting because I didn't put it together until I was re-listening yesterday or day before yesterday. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that Bouchard was a reference when I first listened to it. And I don't think you realized that I didn't realize that was a reference, because the Magnus Archives only ended up coming up between us because when did it? Oh yeah, because it was, you had dropped Khalid's icon.
Right.
No, Alonzo's icon. No, I think it was Alonzo's.
It was
I think it was
Alonzo.
Alonzo's.
Because someone said it looked like a
And
TMA reference.
no, I didn't say that. Someone else must have said
No,
that.
someone said it.
And then I was looking at it and I was like, oh, like it's a reference to something. And you were just like, yeah. And I was like, well, what is it? And you were like, the Magnus Archives. And I was like, oh, I've never listened to that. And then you basically threw me out. And you said, actually, leave me alone. Never talk to me again. And then I think...
Because
Go ahead.
Listen, the Magnus Archives it's such a landmark in pop culture. How could you not have listened to that? It's
I
so
had
good.
heard of
Never
it.
mind.
I think that's enough credit.
You had heard of it, but like you never got into it. I'm like, wow, you really just suck, huh?
But then, like, within the next week or so, I started it. And then I finished it in, like, 3 months, I think, give or take. And so, like, I know now.
Yeah, but I remember you also had to, like, drag your feet to get to it.
No. What happened was...
Yeah, you did.
It took me a little bit to get into season 1, right? Spoilers for the Magnus Archives. I don't know if anyone listening is gonna be upset about that. But I was like, it's interesting. I'm kind of into it because I listened to the first 3 episodes and I was like, oh shit, okay. And then I was like, it's interesting. I was very quickly attached to Tim and Sasha, as you know. But I was like, I don't know if I'm like in it. And then I want to say it's like a mag either 22, 23, or 24. No, it's not 24 because that's the Qualitiy episode. It's the one where it's a statement from a mother about her son, and she's just like, I don't know how to explain this. The sky swallowed him up. And John's in the middle of his, like, after like blah 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 blah, statement ends, blah 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 blah, and then Martin shows up with all the fucking worms, and I was like, what's happening? And like at that point, it was a very steep descend into the madness that is loving the Magnus Archives. And so I think I should give my credit where credit's due. Either way, all of that to say, I didn't yet understand that Bouchard was a reference to the Magnus Archives when I first listened to that, and I think that's interesting.
I think when I first started that audio, a lot of it was just me throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I think at one point I wasn't even gonna do the listener noises after a while because I was like, this is never gonna catch on. People prefer this shit stays silent. And I was just like, no, it's not. This is never gonna happen. And now look at where we are, constantly doing listener noises like a freak I am. But you know what? It's my brand. I do what I want. Brand. It works. One thing that did not stick around though was, I believe in that audio, I did like noises that sound like selecting options.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is too tedious. I don't want to do this. This is never going to stick. I swear to God, if I have to do this ever again, I will delete everything.
Yeah, that sounds like you.
I did want to lean a little bit hard into the Edgar Allan Poe reference because I'm allowed to make literature references. I don't have to only do video game references. I have that right. No one's gonna stop me.
Except yourself.
Except myself, always. But I wish I could have leaned more into it with the Coming Uriah audios.
Yeah.
But I think I had to drop it at one point because I was like, I cannot do every single audio with an Edgar Allan Poe reference, despite wanting to and loving the idea of it. I will probably sneak those references back into future audios though, because that was fun for me and I want to like keep doing it in different ways. Is there anything else about this audio that I want to mention?
Audio 1 of 13.
Audio 1 of 13. I do have to remember that we have to keep this shit short. Okay. You know what? That's it. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Next one, I believe, was Joseph's first audio. It's titled Finishing a Job with a Charming Cowboy. Do you want to start this time?
Yes, I will. I think conceptually, this was the best audio I have ever done, and I love it so much. I love the concept.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
I had fun with this one in writing it all up script wise and like getting to figure out the sound effects and all that. It was one of my more in-depth ventures into like figuring out how editing and sound effects work as a whole. And this was me just pulling a lot of that into it. Now, that said, if I
Mm-hmm.
had to redo it, it would be better. And that is a part of like growing and like,
Inevitable.
yeah, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. You get better at these things. But I would reframe the audio script wise to like actually go with a hit and like an actual mission so that it could take people more into how Joseph works as
Mm-hmm.
a vigilante, and eventually come around to killing the listener because why not?
Yeah.
Any notes?
Oh, is it my turn now?
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay. So I remember the first time you explained the premise to me because it was over text. And you were like, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah. It's gonna light the whole building on fire and kill the listener. I said, huh? I beg your pardon. And I know you worded it that way purely for the shock value of it,
I
which
did.
is not surprising, frankly. It was good. And I also, I know you've already seen my notes for this, but again, when I was listening to it, I was like, God, and you added like the lighter fluid. That was crazy. Um, I think it's interesting because when I think of like your southern speakers, Joseph isn't the one who comes to mind first. It's always Uriah because I'm like, well, yeah, Uriah
Mm-hmm.
is on a technicality southern. And I feel like you've got like what 3, 4 southern speakers now, maybe excluding Lottie because Lottie
Four,
doesn't count.
four, and counting because there's gonna be more, unfortunately, for people who don't like hearing
Yeah,
Southern accents.
yeah, I'm not surprised. Um,
Listen, it's easy.
yeah, uh-huh. That is, I don't know. I
It
think it's
is.
just interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
excuse me. I'm saying my stuff.
Okay.
Um, I just think it's interesting because, like, I think you talked about like worrying about introducing Joseph as Southern because you had Uriah, and I'm just like, I mean, that's completely different regions. Like, I think you can get away with it, and you
Right.
apparently ran with that concept. So, you know, what do I know?
Yeah.
um, I also wrote down that like I thought the visuals were really good, specifically like the when the fire starts. I just thought that was fun. Um, but I think what's most important here is you drop this audio and everyone was all excited and eating it up. Meanwhile, I already knew that Joseph and Khalid were a thing. I wasn't even allowed to talk about it. That was evil. That was rude.
It was a necessary evil. I can't let you go spilling secrets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Listen, we had to test the waters first to see if Joseph would like be a character people would be interested in. And I was interested in this concept, and I wish I at the time had a little bit more faith in myself for
Mm-hmm.
understanding that if I like this concept a lot for my story, screw other people, just put it in. But in the end, he's here, and
Yes, here.
I I can't at all say that it's not a good thing that he's here because everyone loves him. In fact, more people
Yeah.
want to see him murder people if that's a thing,
Yeah.
which he will. Don't worry about it. There's plenty of murder to go around.
And of course there is.
I think on a more technical level though, this audio was like I think I use a lot of the bare minimum effects because I went with
Mm-hmm.
what was in CapCut at the time for the fire, and that I was like, you know what, that shit works. Wrap it up. Let's go. Keep it pushing.
Wrap it up.
I will say I do wish I would have incorporated a little more audios where Joseph is more of a vigilante and like goes out of his way to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
I just think more people would have loved that. I'm more people.
I was about to say, I just realized this is very much so sounding like, wow, yeah, you really like superhero comics, don't you?
I mean, I do.
I'm well aware.
Okay.
Um, are we
Next
gonna keep
one.
it moving?
Yeah, we gotta keep it moving. We gotta keep the energy.
Okay, I wanna start my notes on this one. This was, oh god, I'm gonna forget his name. What is his name technically? Peter? Is that the priest's
Yeah,
name?
Peter.
All right, so this is Peter slash the priest's first audio, Late Night Confessions with the Haunted Priest. Um,
Ah.
I think by the point when this audio first released, I had already finished the Magnus Archives. But either way, whenever I hear this audio, it makes me think of TMA 19 and 20, which I re-listened to recently. Um,
Mm,
I think it's like the desecrated host and then something something. I think like priests
right.
being possessed or dealing with the horrors TM is always very fun, and this audio is no different.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like I was one of the bigger fans of this audio when it first dropped compared to others. Like I
Uh-huh.
was just like, yeah, he's horrible. He's doing horrible things, and the listener is also kind of wild. Sure. Um,
Uh-huh.
and so I thought it was really fun. I also remember you almost ruining yourself in an attempt to get all these audios that you were trying to release at the time out. Um, and I'm sure you swore, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, we're going to rest next time. And then you proceeded to do it at least 2 other times.
Uh,
But what do I know? What do I know? What I do know is what I do know, if you could stop all your laughing over there, is
uh-huh.
that my favorite part was him justifying killing Clara and the child, because I was just like, well, you know, that's certainly a way of looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was the correct conclusion to come to, but sure, yeah. Um so yeah, those are my behind the scenes thoughts with that. You know, I love this audio.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was very interesting.
I love this audio. And this is one of the more this is one of the audios I was the most confident about because I loved the concept and I loved the script. And I was like, I don't care who doesn't like it. I love it. No one's
Mm-hmm.
gonna convince me to ever not love this because I believe at the time I was scrolling through a lot of Tumblr and they were like, we need more evil listeners and we need more morally ambiguous listeners and we need speakers who are going to do horrible evil things. And I was like, bet, okay, and let's do that. Let's make one for Halloween. And then Peter was born. Of course, most people didn't know he was Peter at the time. I believe the longest running time was like for a couple of months, everyone just knew him as Priest. And
Right.
the thing about that is just that I think the biggest struggle I had when approaching this audio was just the fact that one, I had to completely like I wasn't very sure about what I was gonna do for Liege because
Mm-hmm.
the thing with the audio is that it's Liege basically tempting and messing with Priest. And I was like, how do you write a listener to do that? And how do you vocally, well, or how do you like sonically,
Auditorily.
sonally, auditorily, how do you auditorily
So.
imply that a listener is messing with the speaker? And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until I messed around with like a bunch of incomprehensible whisper sound effects that I was like, this is it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I loved the fact that it all came together so well. I even loved one of my favorite parts of it is when it's it's in the final part where visually in my mind what's happening is that there's just like this whole dramatic beam of light video game style just
Mm-hmm.
falling on Peter as Lige just does the final bit of brainwashing and finally turns him into their little puppet. I think I love that part the most, despite it being a headache
Mm-hmm.
when I had to edit it. um I think the one part that I wasn't sure about, besides like the whispering effects, was also just the reasoning for why he was gonna kill Clara. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, I was like, listen, I gotta come up with a comprehensible reason, but also it has to be a reason that makes absolutely no sense. Like, no one in their right mind should come to this line of logic because this doesn't make sense. Why would you? How do you justify killing a teenager and her unborn baby in cold
Mm-hmm.
blood? And originally, right?
Originally.
Peter was not gonna be a pedophile.
You just added that in right at the end. Are you
I
gonna have to bleep
editing.
that?
No, I'm not gonna believe that. What? Why would I? Listen, we're not on TikTok. I don't have to go PDF file.
I'm just saying, you two can be picky. I would wonder. I would be careful.
Okay. And plus, I don't get monetized for this, so I don't really care about
That's true.
demonetization.
That's true. I'm sorry. I'm derailing things, as you were saying.
He wasn't gonna be a pedophile at first because of the fact that I was just like, I don't know. I wanted to at least present like the good priest being corrupted. But then at the time, I was also working in the early stages of NeXus, and the later stages of NeXus was going to introduce the Hunters Association, which lore wise, I think the Discord knows this, because I would have told them. I don't know, and I would have answered it on an ask in Tumblr. But the Hunters Association does work under the church, and I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to touch on the idea of religious corruption as well as generally how religious figures aren't all they're set up to be, and like they're a lot of them are pieces of shit. We can say that a lot of them tend to be pieces of shit. We have a
Yeah.
few examples. Google them,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I wanted to justify not really justify. I wanted to play with the idea that someone is so deluded in their faith that they can ignore all the bad shit that they've done. And with Peter being a pedophile, things clicked. I don't hate to say it, but things clicked. That was how the dice rolled.
Mm-hmm.
Um I think one of my worries was that people wouldn't receive it well because of the fact that one, I was voicing a pedophile, and that was like, I thought people were gonna come in the comments and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you would ever do that. Ugh, you're so disgusting. I can't believe it." And now, if anyone ever did that, I would probably just tell them go get a life and pick up a book or something.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, that's my thoughts on that audio.
This is
um,
audio 3 of 13.
yeah, audio 3 of 13.
We don't have to do them all. I would like to point that out.
We don't have to do them all, but depending on like where it stops, we'll just like stop altogether and just like say, "Yeah, folks, that's it. That's as much as we're gonna
What
do."
if I get more picky? What if I get more picky about which ones I want to talk about?
Okay, you can get more picky. Let's go.
I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit.
Uh huh.
I feel like this is a great one to talk about since I think when we first talked about the concept of this audio, there's also like a secondary. We should probably address that kind of thing. So
Uh huh.
I would like to talk about waiting for your boyfriend with your shark shifter BFF. I feel like we should talk about this
Oh,
audio. Let's have a chit chat. Let's have a chit chat.
let's discuss. Do bring your thoughts.
I think you were so mean when you made this audio because, well,
Mhm.
actually, I'm trying to remember when this audio came out because I remember you had a lot of
Me.
plans to get this. Oh, that's right, because it was a mermaid thing. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. and you were very ambitious, and you were like, oh, I can get all of this done and it'll be great, and you did not, which is fine. I just think we should make more
Listen.
realistic goals. I think we should make more realistic goals, but that's, what do I know? What do I know? I haven't posted on my channel in months. What do I know?
Right.
This audio in particular, I knew to be wary of, because Percy as a speaker, that's fine. I love Percy. Love him to bits. Love him and Seaweed Brave. But you had talked about your ideas for how to voice Amon, and I knew I was in danger, because you were like, yeah, I think I want to speak like dialect because it would be interesting. It's not like anyone else is doing it. And I said, oh, cool. Like, I never get to hear you talk like that. And you knew it was going to have an effect on me. And that's so fucked up and evil, I think.
Uh-huh. Okay. Listen. I think I had a lot of worries going into this, because because much of the audio RP space does not include a lot of diverse accents. Not a lot of voice actors branch far in terms of like what accents and regions they're doing, and that's not their fault, right? I'd like to say that ahead of time. It's not their fault. Not everyone wants to branch out to do that, and not everyone is expected to do that. But I'm not gonna get in trouble for saying this, so I will say it. A lot of the audio RP space is full of white men, right? And
yeah, it is.
One of my worries going into it was that people are not going to receive the dialect well, and that they're going to be asking questions, and that they're going to say like, oh my god, I couldn't understand a single thing of this. This doesn't make a lick of sense. And looking back at it now, if anyone did have a problem with it, too bad, I guess.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed getting to speak dialect for that audio, and I think as like a forementioning for like the audience, when I say dialect, right? When I say a dialect, because a dialect does not refer to like a separate language, it's just like another way of saying something. Wait, why am I explaining this? Go Google this shit. Anyways.
It's like you just have to Google it. I would say like I would quicker compare it to like patois over like a dialect in the traditional sense, because it's not like Southern is like a dialect of English. It's just like, well, like it is, but like it they can go listen to the audio. Why are you explaining this? Have them go listen to the audio. They'll figure it out.
Yeah. The script is there. You guys can read along.
Yeah.
I think one of the better parts of this audio was like me tapping into Amon, Seaweed Brains, and Percy's friendship, which means a lot to me, right? Mostly because I think there's like this whole thing online where everyone is like, oh my god, we can't ever have male friendships in media. Everyone's always gonna make him gay. And you know what? Here's the thing, right? This is not a hot take. This is going to be a take. It's not a hot take. But first of all, they can be gay. Two men can be gay. I think y'all are bitching too much, right? I think y'all are bitching too much. But also, I agree fundamentally that we do need male friendships represented in media more, even though we can also like point to like a bunch of actual male friendships in media. There's buddy cop films for a reason. There's buddy cop films. That's a genre. Like the bitches can be gay. I fear that we can have that, right? On that same note, I do believe in queer platonic friendships, and I believe that two guys can be queer and also be gay at the same.
You mean queer and friends? Is that what you meant?
Yes, that's what I meant.
You can be queer and you can be gay as a tree.
You can be gay and friends as a trait. That's something you can do.
Yeah.
Right? I believe in
Mm-hmm.
two gay best friends. I believe in that. I think that yes, we need more men being vulnerable with each other in media and like being friends, but also that should not ever be an excuse to like say they can't be gay because they could be gay. I
It
actively
could
encourage
be.
because listen.
Listening.
I think the Discord can attest to this, which is that I'm not gonna stop you from making them gay for each other. I'm really not. I think it's a fun little dynamic to play with. And I think if you can, then you should. Um, I know what my intentions as the author was going into the audio and going into the series, but I also appreciate the intentions and the works of fans whenever they want to say that, oh, I think that this is an actual romantic relationship. And I'm like, cool, I get that. I love that for you, you know? And I think you of all people know this for a fact, where you don't care if about what the author says. You're just gonna do what you want.
Yeah. Famously.
Um, are there any other aspects of that audio you want to go over?
No, I think I can save it for later.
Okay. What's the next one you want to do?
I'm trying to figure out. Currently, my recording's sitting at almost 40 minutes. I think maybe we do 2 more. You can pick from the list of what you remember. But I think after that, our last one should be Blood Moon. Because number one, I have the
Yeah.
most notes for that. And it's so fitting. It's so fitting.
Uh-huh. All right.
So which of the ones from my list would you like to talk about next?
Um yeah, I think I want to do that, and then I want to do Dion's audio.
Really? Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So let's start with your notes first on calling a werewolf hitman.
You want me to talk about how I called you a furry?
I mean, yeah, you basically do this without me ever actually. You do this without my input, so I don't really need to like.
Because
Mhm.
listen, here's my thing. You swore up and down months before this audio came out, "Oh, I'm not furry," and I'm just like, you like werewolves. Yeah, you are. You're just like, that's not the same thing. I'm just like, as a furry, yeah, it is. You like werewolves, you're a furry. And you were like, no, 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 I'm not. That's a coincidence. Blah, blah, blah. Right? And then this audio comes out, and the first note I have right here, I'm just like, this just feels like the fucking like, you like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward? Except it's me being like, you're a furry, aren't you? And you're just like, oh, shut up. Cause like it's not like you went all in on it. All right. So I just think this audio exists to confirm what
Mhm.
I already knew in my heart of hearts, which is that you were also a furry. So let's start there. Um with face hurts. Um I think the accent for
Mhm.
this audio was surprising. Like, I guess I should have expected it given the name, but like, I don't know, like some accents you pull, and I'm just like, oh, like, yeah, like that's impressive. I just also would be like, yeah, I'd expect that from you, but this one was a little bit more surprising. Um, and I'm also just kind of curious as to what Anatoly's gonna end up doing in like the broader NeXus storyline, since I know he's under the was it Black Hound
Yeah.
storyline, I think. Am I right about
Yeah.
that? Um, and so knowing what else he may get up to is interesting. But as it stands right now, I just think it's a fun audio. He's very interesting. Him and Handler's dynamic is very fun. And it confirms what I already knew, which is that you're a furry. So sorry. So sorry you had to find out this way. I'm not sorry, but that's what you say.
Okay. For the audience, right? For the audience, I knew this about myself after a particular bit of fan art I did, which PennCIl Kid over there will know because they hounded me about it
Still.
after I released it into the
Yeah.
wild, where I did fan art for the Shaw Pack boys in their wolf forms, and I had made the one mistake, the one mistake of admitting, oh my god, wait, they're kind of hot in our group chat, and no one let me live that down. No one, everyone was like, oh, wait, and they pulled up the receipts. And now I had to live with like, you know what? Maybe I am. I'll just wear this badge with pride from now on. I'll just go about it. And now I can't
Maybe
ever
you
catch a break now because everyone will remind me, oh my god, you were in such denial. Anyways, right.
because it's
It's funny to
funny. It's
you.
funny.
Anyways, um I think I had a lot of practice doing Russian accents before this. Um because I would have done a Russian accent when we were playing
Really?
like Monster Prom, right? And you guys were like, "Oh my god, wait, that's actually kind of good." Well, you weren't like, "Oh my god, wait." You were like, "Oh wait, no, that's actually kind of good."
Oh, yeah.
And like before then I would have joked around and I would have actually been doing Russian accents like on the side with like as jokes. I would have been having conversations with other people. And on top of that, I also had watched a lot of like Black Widow, well, the Black Widow movie, and I went through a lot of old Russian films, and I was like popping in and
Mm.
out with that and just like learning to like at least get it done right. Also, wait, I was also watching Nirami. I don't know if you know her. She's
No.
an art YouTuber. I love her work so much.
Mm-hmm.
You should. Anyways, you should get to know her. But
Excuse me.
she is also Russian.
Mm-hmm.
She does not talk much. Well, she didn't talk much at the time, I believe. But I I had known this. I think because I was like paying attention to like little tidbits here and there. And then after basically having that much exposure, I was just able to like copy the general like sound of what Russians like talk like. So it's like let me try doing one now. It's like uh
Are you gonna give us a snippet right now?
I actually don't need to do one now. Well, is like this where you don't really have to do any actual is this is the thing with accents. You don't actually have to do any actual um correct form of accent work because this is not actually film production. This is audio RP. This is what it is, right? That's audio RP. You don't have to be correct. It's nice to be correct, right? It's
It's
nice
nice
to
to be
actually
correct.
have that little practice in. But at the end of the day, this is not a fully funded audio project. You're allowed to be a little bit silly from time
Mm.
to time. But yeah, um, as to where Anatoly's going, well, the Discord will already know, and I feel as though I should probably start doing more out of Discord posts where I like do lore bits. But Anatoly is a part of a assassin group called the Aesir, which is based on North Norse
Mythology.
mythology.
Mm-hmm.
I was just about to say North Misogyny.
Oh my god.
Okay. I'm good. I'm good now. Okay. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um he's a part of an assassins group called the Aesir, which is based on Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to try to translate a bit of what the North myths and folklore is into this actual group while toying with their dynamics as well as the gods they represent. And basically, I plan to do a lot more handler.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do a lot more handler audios. I want to do a lot more of like understanding Anatoly, understanding his relationship to trouble slash love, because if spoilers if you didn't know, but you should already know based on like the two audios that have come out, Anatoly is the one who turned trouble. They used to be a demon, they're no longer a demon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that this was known after Anatoly's audio dropped, right? If you didn't know, you now know, though, right? So I want to delve more into this. There's a certain topic, right, within Marvel Comics, right, which I want to touch on with Anatoly, where Bucky Barnes is kind of characterized as a living weapon in a lot of different people, and he doesn't want to be seen that way. And with Anatoly, I want to lean in the direction of, no, I am a living weapon. I enjoy being used as a living weapon. I want to be allowed to wreak havoc and cause chaos and destroy everything because that's me. And there's a lot of emotional baggage behind of that. I want to touch on how exteriors and psychology plays into that and how he's just basically built this sort of front for himself. Yeah, I think trauma has made him think that he should be a weapon that is allowed to destroy everything, which also lines up with his inspiration being Fenrir, because Fenrir was viewed as a potential disaster, and in an ironic sort of sense, he was prophesied to like be one of the destroyers of the gods and be part of Ragnarok. And arguably, you could say that basically the gods are the ones who led up to Fenrir becoming what he did and ending up playing his part in Ragnarok. But I want to translate that into like Anatoly and like make him fun, but also a murderous psychopath or sociopath. Sociopath. That's definitely sociopath. But yeah.
Yeah.
I said I wanted to do Dion next. Dion's audio.
We're at about 50 minutes.
Did you have yeah. Did you have any particular thoughts on Dion's audio?
I think it's evil that you stole one of my favorite pet names for Dion. Let's start there. I think that's really evil. I think I was excited to see how you were going to approach the ethics behind telepathy and stuff, because I feel like it always has to come up when you have telepaths, whether it's like positive or negative.
Right.
So I was very excited for that, and I was also excited how you were going to convey telepathy. I think was it like bending over for your something captain, really that was a choice. Diabolical. But I think my favorite thing that I noticed when I was re-listening is that song inspo for that audio. Like, oh, what's that? Is that Thin Lines? Is that a Homesick fan song? Is that a Homesick fan song that I introduced you to? Wow. That's all I got.
Okay. For the audience, for the audience's context. Hi. I'm sort of into Homestuck in a way, right? I have a troll Sona. Yes, let's get that out of the way. Anyways, I found the concept very interesting. I also really like the song. I like a number of the songs on the album as well as the other albums that would have been done by the same person, because I think when I first listened to the album, a lot of it sounded like Darren to me. And then I gave it several other listens. I was like, this could actually relate to a number of other characters. And I think you had spoken to me about the song and what it was actually about. And it was, if I'm not wrong, please correct me.
You're not going to remember their names.
Fandom, please leave me alone if I do get this wrong. Tavros and Vrishka.
No, it's not the Tavros and Gamzee song.
And
no.
Oh, okay, wait. Okay.
No, you're thinking
Who was it? Who was it again?
The Tavros and Vrishka song. That's My Nightmare. That's like Tavris Sprite.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have time to get into the lore of what they are. No, Thin Lines is Carlos and Maylin, which try to like spark
Okay.
notes this. It's Carlos had powers that unintentionally or intentionally, to each their own, various interpretations, went kind of berserk. And as a result, Maylin, his
Mm-hmm.
mate spirit slash partner for the normal people, um, it made her go deaf. And
Uh-huh.
in reaction, in response, if you will, to that, some people view it as manipulative. Some people view it as fucked up. With whatever. Carlos sewed his mouth shut, and thus the thin lines. Well, I guess the thin lines in the first part are Malin's blood, and then the second verse, it's the thin lines of thread. Um, it's a very interesting relationship that they
Right.
have, but it is not Tavros and Briska. So sorry.
Okay. Well, I think with that song in particular, I was because you had explained to me the dynamic beforehand. And I think it would have been more fresh in my memory when I had written up the
Mm-hmm.
entire script. And now that I get the refresher, I can actually properly speak on it. But the destructiveness that was implicit to that song or to that relationship, because people have their opinions. I'm not also not as versed in like Homestuck, so if anyone has opinions on this, don't argue with me. I'm not the one. I don't know shit. I'm just talking. Anyways,
I'm not the one.
um, there was something so destructive about being someone who hurts your partner and then destroying yourself as a consequence of that. And a lot of people would be like, oh, but that's not Doll and Dion. But also, I'm like, it is, but it's not Dion's perspective. I like to think of it from Doll's perspective in that way because,
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who didn't know, though, I think I would hope most of you did. This is a very abusive relationship, right? It's a very abusive one. Um, Failing, crumbling marriage. It's an abusive relationship, and I personally listen, always take into consideration with this whenever I say this. Dion is the bad guy here. Dion is the worst guy here. There's no justification for Doll to be abused, but at the same time, Doll is there of their choice, right? Doll has not made any moves to leave. Doll, as anyone would have noticed within the audio, is like, for lack of a better word, their spine is made of jelly. And if they make any sort of moves, they will crumble under that. They will crumble under it, right? And I feel like in some ways of the relationship, yes, Dion is evil. Well, not real. He's evil. He's evil. He's sort of evil. He is evil. He's a bad guy. But also, I feel as though part of the relationship is Doll destroying themselves for the sake of this relationship with Dion. Right? It's kind of how I want to word it. And the song resonated with that sort of because I don't know. I listened to it and I was like, this is what it is. I feel like works for it. And yeah, we went for that. Um for telepathy as a concept, I I had a little bit of trouble with this one because we had tackled Liege beforehand, and Liege was easy in comparison to this. Because like Liege was an unspoken character.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't speak. They didn't have to like actually go and say anything that was telepathic. I didn't have to make up what was going on. But when it came to doing something with Dion, I was like, well shit, now I gotta actually like come up with something.
Telepathy.
Yeah. So I was racking through my brain trying to figure it out because I wanted to be distinct about how my telepathy sounds versus other things. And I landed on the idea that telepathy should not sound like a way to like how we generally hear it, which is like an echo in your mind, because that's how we perceive our own thoughts, echoes in our minds. But also, I wanted that it would distort in a way based on okay, it would change based on like the perception of the person hearing that thought, right? With Because I want telepathy to sound different across different boards, in which for Liege it sounds like whispering, it sounds like temptation, it sounds like putting things in your head. With Dion, it should change to sound like the effect is being abrasive, it is
Mm-hmm.
pushing forward, it is trying to make itself known, there is no hiding what it's trying to tell you. Dion is making his thoughts loud and clear when he tells you what's going on in his head. And I wanted that instead of working with the echo alone, I wanted to distort it so that depending on who is telepathically speaking, you are hearing a version of it that will convey tone and emotion and also the general perception of the person, right? So with Dion, it sounds more loud, monstrous, abrasive. If had we thrown in any other telepath, it would probably sound a little differently. With if they were a nice person, melodic, there would have been a little chime to it, a little jazz number even, right?
Jazz number.
But I think I also did a lot of thinking when it came to telepathy, because I wanted it to be like actual, a little bit of science in there and neuroscience. Um, I wanted to include a bit of psychology so to make it make sense. The people in the Discord know this. There's lore to support it, but from an audio technical standpoint, I wanted it to sound distinct, and that's my notes on that. Okay, we've hit the 1 hour mark,
You
so
definitely hit the one
the
hour mark.
last audio we'll be getting into is Blood Moon, particularly the first Blood Moon episode, which is a Vainglory.
Yes.
So, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Um there's so many things to say about this audio. Um I know I was really nervous to voice Lottie despite begging you to be the backup if
Uh-huh.
the first person you would ask couldn't do it or like didn't want to anymore. Um and I know I mentioned it in my notes for Z's audio. Can't remember the title of it
Right.
right now. Um and I think it's interesting because I even re-listening is easier to re-listen to Lottie talking rather than Z, and I think it's because I really get in my head about not acting enough, or like I don't know, it's very hard to explain, but when I feel like
Uh-huh.
I'm not being as interesting with my voice, I feel like that means I didn't do a good job, which I know is not necessarily the case. um but Lottie had such a distinct style of speaking and like energy to her that I just found myself enjoying the process a lot more comparatively. um
Mhm.
but that's also a very in my head thing, so what do I know. um I was also very worried that she was gonna sound too similar to Z, despite Z not having an accent, because I don't fucking know. Um,
Mhm.
and I knew that this was like a really big collab, and I was like, oh no, everyone else is gonna sound really good, and then there's gonna be me. Ew. Um, but I think I managed well enough. Would
You
you
did.
agree?
I think you did wonderfully. I was very excited to get your take of Lottie and to be able to work through
Mm-hmm.
all of it. Everyone did such a great job, but I loved being able to go through Lottie's lines, and like you kept the energy I wanted. She was fun. She was flirty. Was
Mm-hmm.
Lottie had that mystique about her. She also had the attitude. I loved listening to Lottie because you basically took what I wanted for Lottie and you ran with it and you like did so well with it and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. For no very biased
Oh
reason,
no, very
of
biased reason.
course.
Of course not.
We'll get to that. Um, I do think it's very funny because my second note here is sorry. Let me make sure I say it right. The New Orleans
Yes.
redo, because the first time I did it, I said New Orleans because that's how it should be set in my
Despite it being
brain,
wrong.
and you said Lexi was gonna kill me.
Listen, I make a point. I make a point of these things. I make a point that whenever I have to do anything, New Orleans, anything, I will get it right. I will begin that shit right because I will not have Lexi knocking down at my door.
Mm-hmm.
For the audience, I'm talking about Sunny Scripps, right? Amazing person, lovely. I love him so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will not have Lexi banging down at my door telling me why I let New Orleans slip through the cracks. I went through this with everyone. I asked the guy who did Robin,
Mm-hmm.
Jacob. But that was his name, Jacob. I went through with him. I asked him to redo that one line because he said New Orleans as well, and I told him it said because Robin is from New Orleans. He would not be saying New Orleans if he was a tourist. We could have had that exemption, but he has been in New Orleans, and I was like, we have to change this all around. I think the only person who did not like bunch this was like um hat hat holder. Yeah, hat holder VA. He did a wonderful job. He did an amazing job, and he really ran with it. And listen, I had to make sure everyone got that word right. No one was letting it slip. No one. I was not letting that happen. But yeah, that's on the New Orleans video. Um, what else did you have thoughts on regarding this audio?
Let's see. I do remember this came out, or like you were working on it when the hurricane came around. And like I won't get
Yeah,
super
it
into
was.
specifics because I'm not necessarily trying to tell people where you live. But I remember you being really frustrated with how long it was taking you to finish it, which I'm flicking you in the forehead for that because it was a 45-minute audio, give or take, once it was finished. And also in general, it was a lot of work
Yeah.
and you had a lot on your plate and you should have been a lot nicer to yourself. But it's already out. It's been passed. So whatever. But also be nice to yourself.
Mhm.
Um I think that I remember really liking the outfits and the designs for everyone.
Right.
Um, like I know for Lottie, you asked me a little bit of like what I was thinking for her design, but I didn't have a ton in mind because I was like, I wanted to voice her. But I did really like
Right.
the web and the Annabelle Kane references within her. Again, massive Magnus Archives nerd now. Um, I just remember everyone being very jazzed about Uriah's outfit, which also I remember a lot of people
Oh
struggling to say
yes.
Uriah's name when it came to the collab, which really confused me. Like, I think I ended up asking some of my like coworkers, I was like, hey, I'm gonna show you a name. How are you gonna say it? And like there are some people who did say
Right.
Uriah and some people who made up a different also incorrect way of saying it. I just thought Uriah was a very easy name to read.
Mhm.
And so this was very interesting to me. Um
Uh-huh.
what else? What else? Um some like specific moments within the audio that I really liked. Number one, I really like Robin's black eyes, but that's a design bias towards me because I just kind of like
Uh.
dark scleras. I think it's always a very fun thing to see. Um
Mhm.
I thought that, as I put it, the magical racism between Uriah slash Cher and Jack, very fun because I feel like it's so easy to see how prevalent those themes are in NeXus. And I feel like a lot of people get into the habit of being like, but not my fave. My fave would never. And it's just like, your fave would. And that is the point.
Your
Your
fave has.
fave would, has, and will do so in the future. Like that's what makes them interesting though. Because of
Mhm.
like how it really just goes in every direction. Um
Right.
there are a lot of moments.
Like people be catching strays.
Yeah. Trying to think, there was a lot of moments that I think I had known about ahead of time because like I haven't told many spoilers. I knew the Bushards were
My
gonna crash
confidant.
it. Yes. I knew the Bushards were gonna crash it. I knew that, what is it? Pet, I think is what they're called.
Pet.
Pet was going to be unleashed. I knew a little bit about Jack ahead of time. I knew that Uriah and Alonso were gonna be taken. I knew Lottie was gonna show up, obviously. I knew Robin was gonna show up, also obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like I can't say too much more because that might teeter into like spoiler territory that I can't talk about. But it was a
Mm-hmm.
big long coming thing, this cookout audio, and so I was very excited when it dropped.
Yeah.
Also, while we're here, Tux my non-existent hair. Um, I think it was very cute how you were very jazzed about the way I delivered Lottie saying honeybee, and how you were very
Oh.
up in arms about the theoretical people not appreciating the way I said it. Thought that was very
Uh-huh.
cute. Should we just kind of like more blatantly address that elephant, sitting in the corner? Should we do that?
Of course. Let's blatantly address it. Do you want to start addressing it? Do you want me to start
I
addressing
think
it?
you're the host. Really, this is for you, you to
Okay.
address.
I think I don't think I would have heard a lot of audios where I heard the name Honeybee, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was a cute nickname. I never got around to like ever using it
Mm-hmm.
because I've never met anyone I wanted to use it on. And yes, that includes you. Also, for the audience, if you haven't keyed in yet, right? If you haven't keyed in based on chemistry, let's get this out the way. Yes, we've said this before. PK and I are dating.
I don't think we said it on the
Okay,
channel.
I think we
Where were,
haven't said it on the channel.
I was like, where would we have said it on the channel?
No, okay, wait. It would have been said on Tumblr, but it wouldn't have been said on YouTube. So now
Yeah.
YouTube knows it, right? YouTube
YouTube is
knows it
now
now.
aware. YouTube is now aware that we're very much so in love with each other.
Yes, very much so.
in a non-platonic, very homosexual way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love Honeybee as a nickname, and I was up in arms about the fact that people might not appreciate it because I don't know, some people don't like Southern accents and some people don't like certain nicknames. I was like, if anyone had shit to say, I would be. I was gonna do a lot of things. I was gonna say a lot of things. No one would like me afterwards. I would be
Mm-hmm.
considered the one VA we don't talk about anymore because he said some shit. That might have also been my protective streak
Yeah.
coming in. But you know what? I think I was valid for that. I think I was
I think you
valid
were
for it.
valid because I also, I'm biased. I did voice her, but I thought also
Uh-huh.
the way I delivered Honeybee was very fun.
It
Um,
was.
and I think Honeybee just as an accent, or no, as a pet name to go with that kind of accent, I think it just works well. Like there's always certain like words or phrases or consonants or vowels, what have you, that just lend itself well to certain accents. And I think Honeybee is definitely one of those with a southern accent. Um,
Right.
so I thought it was fun. I thought it was fitting.
Yeah. Just to go over some of the things you would have said because you did say a lot and I wanted to touch on out and I had to like hold myself back and wait and be like, wait, let them speak, let them speak.
Yeah.
Um, the outfits
Yeah.
I ate.
You did. You very much so did.
I had the most fun designing Uriah's because at the time I was also very unsure of which direction I wanted to go in with Uriah because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do something that was Greek statuesque. I wanted to be elegant, but I also wanted to be fun. I wanted to be sexy. I wanted I wanted to play on a lot. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this would have been the one outfit I ran from the large red
that I would have usually done in this palette, and would have went straight towards whites and blacks and like done a little more withdrawn color wise, but it worked so well. And I think the one part of the outfit I actually do want are the hair cuffs. I am, I
Yeah.
hate that those are not real. I hate it. If anyone ever knows of them, please tell me. If anyone sees anything similar, please send it to me. I want them so badly because they're so pretty. And I don't have access to
Mhm.
them. I don't have these and I want them in my life. But anyways,
Yeah.
um I think I also had fun just understanding how each character would dress and working into like their wardrobe. I knew Robin was more sporty casual. He's like preppy casual, all that sort of bit.
Mhm.
Lottie understood the assignment. She came to eat. She came to that cookout ready to look good, ready to dance, ready to eat.
Mhm. Competition for best dress, as she said.
Always, always. um, I knew Jack, who I must stress, not Jack Lopez, Jack Garraway, Jack Lewis Garraway, people, right? I
Mhm.
knew Jack is a man who's like a little bit more no nonsense. Like he was a little bit casual, but he's also looks like this is a man who works in the swamp. It's like it could go either way. I think the one thing I would have done differently about his design is like added more swamp residue onto his clothes to show that how much of a working man he
Mm.
is, because I feel that would have sold a little bit
Yeah.
more of him. But also, I think it came out great. Everyone did well. Also, Alonso, Alonso's came out way better than I expected because I
Mhm.
wanted Alonso's outfit to like be an outlier to everyone else, and it did. It came out well. I loved it so much.
Yeah. I could tell.
um, I think if I ever I would love to see people do like, because people did in the Nexus Discord like actual outfits for their characters. But I would love to see like an ensemble collection, like a sort of zine or like a mini magazine, that which is what a zine is. A zine of people and their
Mhm.
listeners being dressed to the nines or like dressed all well for that. But yeah, that's on outfits.
Yeah.
I ate. Everyone ate, served even. Um,
Served even.
I think another thing I wanted to touch on was the magical racism, because
Yeah.
can I say something controversial? Can I say something so controversial?
Of
This is
course.
not meant.
I
This
love
is not meant to
controversial.
spark any beef. I have no beef with anyone. I don't know half of these. I don't know half of these people. Right? I don't know. I hardly know half
Mhm.
of the people I work with on a personal level. You can ask them, but I consider Redacted Audio's approach to magical racism very allyship, right? And that's his approach and it's an understandable approach. Before anyone says anything about what I'm about to say, he is a white man. I don't expect him to have
Mhm.
the full scope and comprehension of what is needed to like fully address racism. And plus, it's also in some ways aspects not his story to tell. So certain aspects he doesn't have to tell them, and a lot of his storytelling is allyship
Mhm.
focused. So when I wanted to touch on magical racism as a general theme for Nexus, and especially with where you mentioned Jack and Cher as well as Uriah, I think a lot of people don't
Mhm.
have the understanding that even minorities will weaponize words against each other.
Right. I think that makes
Like,
perfect sense.
black people, we're always gonna call most of us are gonna call each other the N word. We're always gonna be like, nigga this, nigga that, nigga that, right? We're always gonna call each other
Yeah.
the N word.
I don't know if
We'll
YouTube's gonna
bleep it
let you
out
say
if
that.
necessary. Again, I don't fear demonetization. It's demonetization has no effect on me. I
Okay.
don't get paid to do this.
That's fair. That's fair.
Um,
As you were saying.
minorities will weaponize words against each other, and I feel as though a lot of people from time to time see racism as white on black, white on Asian, just white on someone. And yes, it is that, but in a lot of other cases, it's also us going at each other. It's everyone else going at each other's throats.
Mm-hmm.
Racism as a fundamental institution is not just like one oppressive force versus going after like a group of people. No, it's so deep rooted into our
Mm-hmm.
society that sometimes even the minorities will go after each other in different ways. It can be overt, it can be implicit, it can be subtle. There's so many different ways in which racism gets tackled in real life, and I wanted to kind of show it in like this way where yeah, we're all a part of like a minority community, but also the minorities are gonna fight. They're gonna be nasty with each other. They're gonna be nasty in the less freaky way. They're gonna be nasty in the actually insulting someone way. And with
Mm-hmm.
the usage of the word mutt and all that and leech, which aren't actually words, which aren't actually derogatory words in real life. Let's keep that note. Let's keep that note there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Let's keep that
but
in
with
mind.
that one in particular, I was like, I want to kind of show that this is kind of the environment we live in, right? Every person of color will probably know like this one
Mm-hmm.
instance of where everyone is going at each other's throats and everyone is throwing insults each other's way. Hell, in my own area, there's like different kinds of people who we have different kinds of people. And listen, shit can get real nasty. Shit can get real fucking nasty when it comes to certain things, right? Um, and that's kind of it is. There's a reality, and you had
Mm-hmm.
brought up at least some time when we were talking about magical racism and my approach to it, where you compared it to Dungeon Meshi, which was like a complete compliment to me, and I was like, oh my god,
Yes,
really?
because I think for Dungeon Meshi, which I love dearly, I still need
Uh huh.
to finish reading now that I've watched it. I think it is so fun and interesting to, instead of seeing magical racism, fantasy racism,
Uh
etc.,
huh.
as like X versus Y or like big group versus small group, it is all these little things shot between all the groups all the time. All of your faves are racist. They are all racist in some way. Chilchek says weird stuff about Marcel. Marcel says weird stuff about Laios. Laios says weird stuff about Senshi. Senshi says weird stuff about, oh, I'm forgetting
Mm-hmm.
other people's names, like the kobolds or whatever. Like, it is directed at each other in a way
Right.
that feels refreshing in an odd way. Because again, it's not just big major group against small group. It's just like there are ways you can discriminate against each other, against everyone, and you are constantly having to check yourself and your biases and like kind of
Right.
correct them, for lack of a better word. I feel like I could also
Yeah.
get on my little soapbox about like B-Stars, for example. I think B-Stars kind of plays into a similar mindset. Though like, to each their own opinions about how it goes about that. It's just like carnivores and herbivores could be read as various comparisons to real groups, like in terms of like white people versus people of color. But I don't think it ever stays consistent. And I think both groups have various struggles. Like carnivores, yeah, can eat herbivores, but also carnivores get banned from certain areas because they're
Mm-hmm.
assumed to be these like monsters inherently. That's really fucked up. It's just like herbivores constantly have to fear for their lives always because they could be eaten at any moment, but also they're understood to be helpless, or like
Right.
they can only get certain privileges if a carnivore vouches for them. That's also fucked up. And so I just feel like that as an approach to magical racism is just more compelling because it also highlights the idea
Mm-hmm.
that like you are not above being racist. And I feel like a lot of people are really scared to admit that. But it's just like it's okay to admit that. Like you're not above being discriminatory against other people, against your own people. That's fine. What it is that you have to learn from it. You have to recognize it in the moment and be like, damn, that was really fucked up. Let me not do that again.
Yeah. Thank
And so I
you.
just thought it was really refreshing.
I think as a general theme within Nexus, and what I want to tackle most is like, and this is unsurprising. I hope most it's unsurprising to most of the viewers here. I hope it is. Otherwise, this is going to be an awkward conversation for you to have with yourself. Um, as a Black person creating audios, of course, I'm kind of going to
Yeah.
touch on racism because it affects me. You know, I hope I have you on this, but I also wanted to touch more in depth on it because there are different ways in which racism affects people, and I want to tell that story in a way because it's also a part of Nexus. And to be remiss of it is to like deny. Listen, there's a whole thing on Black trauma and how not everyone wants to hear Black trauma and not everyone wants to hear their racial traumas, and that's okay. That's fine. Please go read and consume whatever media you want. But also, this is an inescapable fact for me. I can't really escape this. I have to live it at some point in my day, within my month, within my week, and my year. And I feel like if I'm gonna go through it, I might as well bank on it by telling some stories about it, right? um, but I think there's a lot of magical racism in very subtle and very explicit ways that comes about. We have Conan, voiced by the infamous Escaped Audios, who plays a cop, a magical cop. A lot of people had fun with that one. And that deals with police brutality as well as institutional racism on that level. I believe we have other audios where there is Adonis who talks about racism towards celestial savants, to the use of the word incubi as well as succubi and concubi. Basically, there's a number of examples. I'm not going to get too into it right now, but it exists, and I want to play into the different ways of how racism actually impacts people because it's going to be very relevant to Blood Moon after we've settled all of what's going on right now because we're in some crazy shit. We are almost up. We're wrapping this up. We're wrapping this up. This will be it soon. But with Blood Moon, I think a lot of people had the comparison of it being like inversion. You know my opinions on that. you know my opinions on that. I don't necessarily agree, and I do agree in some aspects because they're very similar in tone and concept. However, I'm gonna kind of spoil a little bit, right? I'm gonna spoil it a little bit. I'm not gonna tell you how it ends. I'm gonna spoil a little something with you, right? Because I want you all to understand that there's a distinction between myself with Blood Moon and the Cookout and inversion. And it is that with the inversion, it is written by a white man who tackles the idea of government incompetency as well as the people having power to change the lives of other people, as well as just generally institutional failures for the public. And it has a lot more themes than that. But at the end of Inversion, for those of you who have not caught up, I don't know why you're not caught up at this point, but you know what? At the end of Inversion, David Shaw is awarded a Medal of Honor, I believe. I think that's it. I think that's it. He's awarded a Medal of Honor for saving everyone, even though it was Milo who helped take down the barrier and who organized everything for everyone to like come together. Also, Lasco was there and helped out. The difference is that became a Memorial Day. That was a national event. Everyone knew about that. I want to stress though, with the Cookout and with Blood Moon, New Orleans is not a place many people will study. New Orleans is, and particularly the area Uriah is in, is very much so filled with.
Are you asking me something?
No, I wasn't. Oh my god, did the audio cut out there? Okay, wait, hold on. Technical difficulties, folks. Hold on. Okay, let me just hop back into it quick before we do a rapid fire reactions.
Okay.
Okay. As I was saying, the difference is New Orleans, and particularly the area that Uriah is from, is a very heavily POC populated area. And I think the best way to describe what happened at the cookout and comparing it is like a shootout. Anyone who has seen the news, anyone who has ever paid attention, I want you all to listen and allow me to hold your hand when I say this, right? When there are shootouts in POC populated areas, there is no memorial. There is
Mm-hmm.
no medals handed out to the people who would have gotten the guys who did the shootout. There is nothing
Mm-hmm.
there. Maybe there's a medal for the cops who arrested them after the fact. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is no medal to that. Do you want to know what does happen? The areas are policed more. They want to take down the crime rates. They believe sending in more police is the answer to that. And that's not always the answer. It doesn't always work out well for the people of the area. Shit gets worse in some cases. And I feel as though that's kind of where I want it to go in that direction. Because, sure, similarly, yeah, they're close in concept. But I want my execution to be different in the fact that these are two very different things. These are two different situations. These are people. There's a lot of different factors here going on because, yes, there's magical racism, but there is, in fact, quite literally, actual racism going on there.
Yeah.
It'll pop up. Don't worry about it. You'll see it when it happens. I think that's all for that one audio for now.
Mm-hmm.
So
For
let's
now.
get into the rapid fire reactions. Let's go.
I just had some things I wanted to highlight from the audios. We're not gonna fully delve into. Number one, not a dude. I love that. It just makes me think of The Good Place, which I have not finished, but I do know that not a girl bit. So I just thought that was fun.
You are gonna have to reference which one that comes from.
It's from Darren's audio. The people should listen. They should know. What else? I feel like there's something about the drop smite bit that you had said that you didn't mean originally, but that's my favorite bit from Z's audio. I just like to put that out there. What else? I can get away with saying this because there's too many audios you have that have music in there. The fact that you put our song in one of these audios is still criminal behavior, and I'm still going to fight you over it. I know where it is, and that's what matters. But I'm gonna fight you. I love Lori and also Astaroth, and I say them both because I like that they have what I call the Jonathan Sims effect, which is when the voice gets all, I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean. Let me see. Jackson got mentioned. You know that. I think a lot of the stuff with Khalid is ironic now that I finished Penumbra, which, you could get on, but what do I know? And I think the last two things I will say, well, they kind of go hand in hand, so 1.5. I do think it's very fun how you were looking forward to revealing that Uriah and Sherlock were spouses in tandem with having their own listener and speaker respectively. But also, I think it's really funny how often I feel like you add bits of me into Sherlock, because there's a bit that Uriah says in the audio with it's him, Sherlock, and Cher, not the one that's him, Alonzo, and Sherlock. But it's just like, yes, I would love you if you were Ash. And I'm pretty sure this was before the would you love me if I was a table or would you love me if I was soup conversation. And I just think that's really ironic. Yeah. So yeah, that's my rapid fire closing reactions that we didn't get to.
My closing reactions, very quickly. I will try not to rumble. Listen.
Hour and a half.
Darren Laz's first video, which was protected from a brash werewolf by a morose wraith. I love that because I was excited to get Darren in there. For most people who do know and who have been with me for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
Darren was a darling, well, a darling OC that I've transferred into like a
Mm-hmm.
actual original character because why not? Um, I think this is why people say I'm more inspired by redacted audio. I think this is why. I believe it.
You have bits of it. It's fine.
Yeah,
You
but
can be inspired by lots of things. You're clearly inspired by the Magnus Archives and Penumbra, but what do
I
I
will
know?
have to always just keep mentioning, hi, I love Castle the most. She's the reason I'm doing this. I hate to tell most people this. I don't. But anyways,
No, you don't.
I think one thing we should have been spoken about is forming a polycule forming a polycule audio with Nick and Oscar. Uh
That wasn't on my list. You didn't put that on the
okay, it wasn't on the
list.
list, but like quick reaction, right? Quick thoughts on it, right?
Okay.
Quick reactions is that I really love doing that audio on like a technical aspect because it was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of figuring out the effects and figuring out all that. But also, I really love the dialogue. I I love the inclusion
Yeah.
of cultural references, and I love getting into the different sections of how I could talk about Oscar's heritage as well as Nick's heritage and throw in bits and pieces about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured that was awesome for
Yeah.
me. um
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's about it for my quick reactions because we do gotta wrap this shit up and put it in a box and send it away. Um
Mm-hmm. We
we
didn't
did
even
not,
get through half of
but
these.
we tried. We really did. Anyways.
You swore up and down we were gonna talk
And they
forever,
did
and I
end
was
up
like, "That's a
talking for
funny
an
joke."
hour and change.
You
Now,
gotta add the editing note at the beginning.
yes, I do. Okay. Let's do this wrap up. So, everyone,
Okay.
that was Dev Notes with Laveau and PK. We don't know if PK will come back again for this. I hope at
Mm-hmm.
some point, maybe in the future.
Maybe I'll pull
Of
you over
course,
for
you
NR stuff.
should. I'm always willing to talk about them. um, this has been
Mm-hmm.
Dev Notes with Laveau and PK. Hopefully, this might be a thing that happens again, or it might just be a solo thing I go off and do, probably like once a month or something. No promises. I'm not holding myself to that, but it might happen. We'll see. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
how do I wrap this up? Okay, wait. Yeah. Okay. So, drink water, stay safe, make sure that you get a good night's
Drink water.
rest. Uh, take care of yourself. Mind your peace.
Mm-hmm.
Modulate your own feed. For the love of God, block who you must. Please. Don't go harassing nobody. Um, treat each other with respect. Free Palestine. I feel as though that should be understood from me. Anyways, free Palestine. Um, is there anything else I should be adding? Do I need to like do like a fist in the air and say BLM too?
You're done. You're done. All right. Thank you for hosting me. This was very fun. I love having opinions always. Eventually you will see Vo on my channel, most likely as Carter Colson. They know why it's their role. It did whatever. They know. This has been great.
Uh-huh.
At this rate, maybe I won't come back. Who knows? And we're gonna wrap this up because they have places to be. They have
Yeah.
people to talk to, families to go call.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they were here listening to us for that long, so maybe they don't really have as much
And
of a
you're
life as they
done.
think they
And
do.
you're done. All right.
It was a pleasure having you on, PK. It was a pleasure having you all to listen. Have a good time zone where you are. And remember, this has been Laveau, your host with the
Mhm.
most, and I will see you all in the next audio. Bye.